Welcome to Relationship Reset with life coach Dr. Mark Shook. In each podcast, Mark will weave together the ancient truths of Scripture with the latest cutting-edge neuroscience in short, concise, effective, and doable principles and actions to reset your relationship dynamic.
All right, and welcome back to Relationship Reset. I'm Dr. Mark Shook, and I'm your host. We've been doing a deep dive into emotionally focused therapy, Dr. Sue Johnson's creation. She writes all about it in her book, Hold Me Tight. I highly recommend that book. So we've been kind of walking through that a little bit. And she's talked about some conversations that we go through, and we've gone through those one by one. What we want to talk about today, just to kind of close out emotionally focused therapy, the idea of it is how to keep your love alive. How do we do that? How do we keep love alive over time? Well, of course, it's practicing these things that she shared with us. It's having that hold me tight conversation. It's forgiving those past hurts, and it's finding out what your triggers are. Let's just talk a little bit about it, okay? The truth is life gets busy. We get into the kind of these routines of life, whether it's taking care of the kids or going to work or, and the truth about marriage is that you're either working hard to move closer together or you're drifting apart. There's really no staying even. It's not like you can just say, hey, I do, and then just kind of coast, because you're going to slowly drift apart. It's just the way it is, kind of an entropy of a relationship. So how do you continually nurture that relationship? How do you continually nurture that connection and avoid the emotional distance that we've been talking about? I think understanding that love is not just something we fall into and then just we either fall in, fall out, but it's something that we work really hard at to have a great relationship. Sometimes people will tell Laura and me, you're so lucky, you guys just have a great relationship. And I think luck has nothing to do with it. It's been a lifetime of really hard work. So what are some of the insights from Dr. Johnson on maintaining that emotional connection in your relationship? And why does it even matter? Why is it important to continually work on your connection with your partner? Can't love just take care of itself? The truth is that love is always going to need attention. It needs care and nurture to survive and to thrive. Over time, if we don't intentionally invest in our relationships, that drifting is just going to happen. You think about how couples become so focused on work and family and daily tasks, they stop talking about their feelings. They stop having fun together. They stop sharing those little moments of affection. And over time, this creates an emotional gap that both partners start to feel a little bit disconnected, even if they're still functioning well as a couple. And that disconnectedness only grows if we don't do something to remedy it. Emotional connection is what makes us feel secure in our relationship, what helps us trust that our partner will be there for us, and what gives us that sense of being loved and valued and understood. And without that ongoing connection, love, it just starts to fade into the background. We can start to feel isolated. We can start feeling taken for granted. Before we dive into how to keep your love alive, let's talk about some of the common obstacles that couples face when it comes to maintaining connection. Number one, busy schedule. As Americans, we are so busy between work and children and household responsibilities, social obligations. It can feel like there's little time left over to focus on your relationship. Finally, hit the bed at night and you're both so exhausted that you just want to go to sleep. No time for meaningful conversation. Another thing that happens besides busyness is those routines I was talking about, complacency. We get so comfortable with each other and stop doing all those little things that we did when we were dating in the very beginning of our relationship during the honeymoon phase. Maybe we stop going on dates completely, or stop expressing appreciation, or even having meaningful conversations beyond logistics and daily tasks and, being the chauffeur for the kids. For example, you might notice that you and your partner spend most of your time discussing bills or errands or work, schedules that rarely get very deep at all, that don't have any kind of soul words in them of what's happening in each other's emotional lives. The other thing that causes a problem besides the routines and the busy schedule is unresolved tension or unresolved conflict. And some of us, we hate conflict so much. But that unresolved conflict is a major barrier to maintaining connection. That lingering hurt, disappointment, those feelings of resentment, they create emotional distance. Even if you're not actively fighting, those unresolved issues in the back of your mind can prevent you from feeling fully connected. Maybe there's an old disagreement that you never fully resolved. So one partner feels neglected or unappreciated, but has never expressed those feelings. And over time, it creates a sense of emotional withdrawal, even if everything looks fine on the surface. So all of these things can come into play, and it's just life. So what are some practical ways to keep your love alive? Now that we've looked at those obstacles, let's look at the practical ways to keep your love alive, to make both partners feel valued and loved and secure. I think a big one that Laura and I have learned is to regularly check in emotionally. That's one of the important things that you can do, is have emotional check-ins. This means setting aside time on a regular basis, whether it's once a week or once a month, or maybe we want to do it daily. Laura and I do it every evening, to ask each other how you're feeling about life in general, about your day, about the relationship. Not like you want to just dig into all the stuff about the relationship all the time, but you could even just say, what did you love about your day today? Do you feel connected to me? How are we doing? Is there anything we need to talk about? How are you feeling emotionally right now? It creates space for both partners to express any concerns, unmet needs, and especially even positive feelings. And these check-ins help prevent emotional distance by addressing any small issues before they grow into those bigger problems. It also shows your partner that you care. It shows your partner that you want to be connected. Think about the last time you really showed your partner, I really want to be connected to you. Another thing you can do is prioritize quality time. In the busyness of life, it's easy to let that quality of time fall by the wayside. But spending time together without distractions. So many couples that I coach, they have spent years with the kids, everything focused around the kids, and then that time comes for empty nest. And what you don't realize is the kids are only a small part of a marriage. You have them for a while, and then they're your adult kids living somewhere else, and then you have your grandkids, which is the best part of everything. Somebody told me once that grandkids are the gift that you get for not killing your kids. But I think that when I'm counseling these couples, it's like they don't even know each other anymore. Doesn't mean you have to go on elaborate dates all the time or anything like that, but even just setting aside 15 minutes before bed just to talk without any interruptions. Maybe you'll want to set aside a certain time each week where both of you commit to spending time together, whether that's a weekend date or just an hour to sit and chat, or just, like I said, 10 or 15 minutes daily. Prioritizing time together helps reinforce the idea that this relationship has priority, even in the midst of my busy life. And then number 3, keep physical affection alive. It's one of the easiest ways to create ongoing connection. I'm not just talking about sex here. It means holding hands and hugging and kissing, and even just sitting close together. Physical touch releases oxytocin, that hormone that's the bonding hormone that causes us to feel connected. It strengthens emotional connection. Make a habit of greeting each other with a hug or a kiss when you come home, or hold hands when you're watching TV or just walking together. These small moments of touch can go such a long way in maintaining that emotional bond. And then we've talked about this, but it's so important. I don't want you to forget it. Express appreciation and gratitude. We're so prone to make those lists of how our needs aren't getting met or how our partner is, really getting on our nerves. And it's easy, even if you don't do that negatively, just to take your partner for granted, especially when life gets hectic. One of the most powerful ways to maintain connection is to express appreciation and gratitude regularly. Let your partner know that you value, that you see the things that they do, whether it's something big or something small. Maybe it's their support during a tough time, or maybe it's just making you a cup of coffee or something like that. You might just say, I really appreciate how you always listen to me when I've had a stressful day. Thank you. Thank you for helping me out with the kids this morning. That made such a big difference. Showing appreciation helps your partner feel valued and loved and seen, and it reinforces the positive aspects of your relationship. Number 5, address issues before they escalate. One of the most important ways to maintain connection is to address those problems as they arise. Don't wait. Don't let small grievances or unresolved tensions build up over time. If something is bothering you, bring it up in a calm and respectful way before it becomes a bigger issue. And guys, sometimes if we get into a conflict or an argument, we can flood. Our adrenaline floods, and we need to step away for a minute so we don't say something we'll regret. That's okay. But don't step away and never come back. So we could even say to our spouse, hey, I feel like I'm flooding right now with adrenaline. I just can't even quite think straight, and I want to do this well because I value you so much. Let's get back together in about 15 minutes. Give me some time just to breathe and just to sit here for a minute. If you feel like your partner hasn't been as emotionally available, you might say, I've noticed we haven't been talking as much lately, and I really miss that. Add that part. I miss it. I want it. Because that's really what you're saying. Don't nag and say, we never talk anymore. You're always too busy for me. Just, I really miss that. Can we talk about what's been going on? This prevents emotional distance from growing and ensures that both partners feel heard and understood. So here's the thing. Keeping your love alive is a lifelong process. You can't just say, okay, we said I do. I remember one woman telling me that her husband, she said, you never tell me you love me. He said, I told you I loved you when I got married to you, and if I ever stop loving you, I'll let you know. No, that's not good enough. It's this lifelong, daily journey together. The key to keeping your love alive is recognizing that love is not something we just fall into and forget about. It's something we actively maintain. And rarely have I talked to a guy, when I'm talking to a man and his wife, that I don't look at him and say, you're working about a third to a half as hard as you're going to need to work to make this really amazing. By making time for those emotional check-ins, by making time for that quality time together, by keeping that physical affection alive, expressing appreciation, addressing those issues early, and all of those things, as you do that, they build like little building blocks and on your relationship so that it stays strong and gets stronger even and more connected over the long term. Remember, relationships are never static. They require ongoing care, attention, effort. But the reward for the effort is a relationship that's not only lasting, but also rich in love and trust, and emotional closeness. Well, I hope you've enjoyed going through Sue Johnson's emotionally focused therapy. It offers a powerful framework for transforming relationships through emotional vulnerability and that secure attachment. And you, even if you don't have a secure attachment, you can develop that. And that's what marriage is really amazing at if we work at it, helping both partners come to a secure attachment. By going through the conversations that we talked about, each designed to address those specific emotional needs and patterns, Sue Johnson helps us break free from destructive cycles and build that deeper, more fulfilling connection. So I hope that what you got out of this is that you can recognize and name your destructive interaction patterns. I hope that you can address the underlying vulnerabilities that fuel those patterns, the raw spots. Remember the triggers we talked about? That you can go back and reprocess a painful moment with understanding. That's revisiting that rocky moment. That you can create emotional bonding by sharing your deepest fears and needs. That hold me tight conversation. Remember, the vulnerability is what changes everything. That you can heal emotional wounds that have caused long-term pain. And that you can deepen your emotional and physical intimacy through sex and touch and bonding by that touch. And then that you'll just keep working at it. Keep working at it and working at it and working at it daily so that your love will remain strong and connected for years to come. I think that this is what we all long for, that trust, that emotional safety, that secure attachment bond that allows our love to thrive, that allows our love to endure, that answers the question, are you there for me? With a resounding, yes, I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere. Well, thanks for your time today. We'll see you soon.